Hello and welcome to My Body, My Power podcast, where we shine our light, claim our worth, and empower the next generation. I'm your host, Kristen Rubis, a heart-led entrepreneur, mentor, and the creator behind the My Body, My Power movement. Here, we uncover authenticity, celebrate self-expression, and create a life and career that lights up the world. Welcome, Goddess. Let's dive in. Hello, friends. Welcome back to the My Body, My Power podcast. I'm your host, Kristen. I'm deeply grateful to have an empowering conversation with Sally. Welcome, Sally.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks for being here. So tell us a little bit about yourself and the amazing work you're doing in the world.
I am currently working as an embodiment coach and a yoga teacher, and that has been a long journey to get to this kind of work that I'm now doing. I guess prior to doing this, just for background for everyone, I was a corporate lawyer. And I went into that, it's very different to what I'm doing now. You know, I went into that pretty, let's say, unconsciously. I sort of followed external things and, was not necessarily following my most inner authentic self and alignment. I don't regret that I ever went down that path. I think I made some incredible friends and I learned a lot about myself, and it was a deeply challenging time to go through law school and then work in that corporate environment. And it was only because I think I had a really regular yoga practice that I was kind of able to ground in some way through it, and also use it as a learning and use it as a period of my life where I could unpack some of what it was that was going on for me, because yoga just gave me this time to get out of my head, get into my body, pause, breathe, feel things. I would say I was really living from the neck up for the first 25 to 30 years of my life. And yoga, as we know, is just beautiful, a holistic practice that can circuit break some of those patterns. So it was really, through my daily yoga practice that I was doing to be able to kind of survive this environment that I was in, that I started to realize, this is more than just, I don't really like the job, or, the hours aren't very good. It was almost a sense of deep disalignment, or misalignment, I should say, with who I actually was, and what my soul was here to do and achieve. And it was only once I'd done my yoga teacher training and had that experience of being in a 1 month of being off work, completely immersed in the practice and learning of yoga. Never ever thought that I would go on to teach. I thought I was going to be a lawyer for the rest of my life. That I kind of woke up to that. I'm not living in alignment, or there's something that's really deeply not right here, and it was hard to know what to do with that information. And again, all of those external social pressures were sort of still there. They don't go away just because I had this internal realization, but there was an empowerment. And I love the title of your podcast, My Body, My Power. Like, I really do think that coming into my body and out of my head, and that kind of whirling, constant worrying and thinking, was where I found my power. It's where I found my ability to sort of say, this isn't right for me, and I'm going to redirect. So that's the background. And then I started teaching yoga. I then was also dealing with a lot of health issues. Like, I had chronic gut issues and fatigue. I ended up getting long COVID, And all of these things were like, you know, my body speaking to me, my body telling me that things needed some attention. And it was through like a really embodied school of yoga that wove in somatics and nervous system awareness that I started to learn about myself. And I was like, oh, you know what? I think these health issues, which the doctors are kind of pointing to, you know, bacteria and viruses and all of these things, I think they're actually not about that. They're coming from a deeper dysregulation, like a dysregulation in my nervous system that had probably been there for many, many years. And I started to, you know, read Gabor Mate's work and study a little bit more about somatics, nervous system health, and I realized in doing that there actually are quite a lot of parallels between the ancient yogic teachings and the kind of more modern neuroscience-y stuff that's coming out about how the body holds our experiences and how the nervous system works. And so that really made me excited. You know, I was like, wow, this ancient tradition of yoga is now being very validated as, and I'd had that personal experience of it being so profoundly supportive. So I kind of, you know, wove those two things together. As a lawyer, you know, we're trained to see analogies in everything. And so I was just kind of drawing analogies between two different schools of thought. And then I've gone on now to sort of, I mean, just develop my own way of threading together yoga, somatics, nervous system work, and also, you know, spiritual practice has been really profoundly helpful for me to find a sense of purpose and connection. So, you know, kind of ritualizing all of that and packaging it together in ways that are not necessarily clinical in the way that we can access, you know, we can access a lot of nervous system regulation these days. It's kind of everywhere. But putting it into the world in a way that's also got a sacred element to it, that really allows people to not just regulate their nervous system. I always say that that's like step one, you know. Regulation is sort of the foundation, but it's not the end point, you know. Once we're feeling a little bit more regulated, a little bit more safe within ourselves, that opens up the doorways to more intuition or finding, you know, the sense of safety we need to be able to change our life path and realign with more of a soul-led way of being, or assert a boundary or things like that, you know. We don't begin and end with just regulating the nervous system. It's sort of like, how can we then use that to get to a more happier, healthier, aligned way of being in the world. So it really is quite a body of work that goes beyond just helping people feel like a little bit calmer. It's a body of work that really opens people up to, you know, question and get curious about what it is that's going on for them in a bigger picture. So that's how I ended up doing what I do. And I'm running group programs and one-on-one work and hopefully starting a membership this year. And you know, just trying to like get it out there in different ways that are accessible and digestible, because everyone's so busy. And these things often come, you know, at a time of crisis, which they did for me. So I'm almost on a mission to like, how can we start to drip in these little like ritualistic moments of regulation so that we don't all have to end up burnt out or at the end of our health capacity before tuning in and asking these bigger questions.
Beautiful.
So yeah, that's the
good work, girl. And do you do weekly classes where you live? Or
yeah,
is it
I do.
online? Okay.
Yeah, so I still teach yoga in person in Victoria. So I live down near the surf coast of Victoria in Australia, and I also teach yoga in Melbourne, which is the main city.
Great.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, what was the defining moment in your life that changed the way you see yourself in the world?
Ooh. I think so. As I said, I had a pretty regular yoga practice while I was going through law school. And then after I finished that degree, I went on a big holiday over to Central America, and I was in Costa Rica on a yoga retreat. And, you know, at that point, my yoga practice was pretty physical. I was sort of, you know, really more interested in the movement and the stretching and the strength and how it made me feel on a physical level. And then I'll absolutely never forget this moment on this retreat in Costa Rica where we were working with the subtle body and just the more subtle aspects of being human. And I had this big, I don't know if we call it like a realization, an awakening, a direct experience of the energy body, you know, like of me being more than just flesh and bones and thoughts, and actually this sort of realization of the true nature of being human. And that really set me on a path. So I came home from that retreat, and I just went about searching for workshops, other retreats, courses, anything I could do to get more of that, you know, to find teachers who were teaching and talking about that more subtle, more kind of healing, I guess you would say, like the healing capacity of yoga on a psychological, psycho-spiritual level, rather than it just being a physical practice and getting you know, stronger and into more poses and things like that. So that changed the way that I practice yoga. And then I would say that set me on a path to keep following that thread of curiosity. And I ended up finding some incredible teachers locally and online, overseas, and everything. And I've been very fortunate to, you know, have that thread of curiosity lead me into some really profound experiences and teaching opportunities and learning opportunities.
Good for you. So I think if we don't, I think when we lose that curiosity, we kind of lose that thread, like you're saying. And so just being open to that definitely can just guide and lead us in these authentic ways. Yeah.
And it's something I talk about a lot now with my students, and say to them, you know, like if we don't create the space and the silence or the stillness to be able to even hear that little bit of curiosity, that little voice, we can just kind of stay on the autopilot, on the track. And, you know, so I'm a big believer in following the hunches and the nudges, and they haven't necessarily led me astray yet. So I trust.
Definitely.
Yeah,
I try to teach when I work with the younger girls, just teaching them how to honor their intuition, and that I call it like their inner navigation, and just how do you hone in on that and trust that. And I think there's that essence of getting quiet enough on some level. I mean, sometimes intuition could be loud, but it's usually pretty subtle and soft, and just almost that innocence that we still have, you know, on some levels. And so teaching them to just play with it in a little bit of a way, and then just really encouraging them to always trust that voice, because other people might project differently than what your inner navigation is telling you. And
that's it.
it's important.
it's like one thing to be able to hear it, and then to act on it and trust it is a whole nother thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, good for you. That's awesome. Well, how do your diverse experiences, skills, or qualifications come together to create a unique approach to your work and mission?
Well, I think because I came from a pretty intellectual place, I've studied a lot. I probably overstudy, to be honest. But I like to feed my brain. I like to know how and why and what and all of the kind of, I guess, information that's out there. And so I would say that, because I continue to be really curious and continue learning all the time, my work is fairly eclectic. It's threaded together. Study that I've done in the sort of like nervous system space, with the spiritual teachings, with the embodiment practices, with my own kind of life's experience of chronic illness and burnout, and my experience of corporate life as well, which I think brings kind of a lens or a level of understanding to what it's like to actually be in that world, which I try to use because I never just say to people who come to me, I'm not like, oh, quit your corporate job and come get start a spiritual business and that's the only way. Like we have to also be able to stay in the job, the family, the care responsibilities, that in life. My path is not the only path and everyone's path. And how can we take more of an integrated approach to what have you got on your plate and what are your non-negotiables, and then weave in some ways that might support a little bit more grounding or a little bit more of a connection to nature or art or creativity or whatever it is that allows the soul self or that authentic self to stay happy, even within a corporate job or wherever.
Beautiful.
So I'd say I have a very eclectic and integrated approach.
That's awesome. I think that's beautiful. Well, what does radical self-love mean to you, and how has it played a role in your journey?
Radical self-love, I think that is not an easy thing. Hasn't been an easy thing for me, but it is extremely, powerful when we can get there. And to me, it just means accepting things as they are, even if they're not perfect and we're not where we want to be, particularly through and I'll say, while also being open to grow and change and for there to be better days, not necessarily just like resigning to the situation and that being what it is. Because I think, there's been days when I've been pretty unwell, let's say. The health journey has definitely been a challenge to stay connected to self-love through that, because it's easy to think like, oh, this is only happening to me and I'm broken, and all the stories that we get, that we hear through it. But holding a love and acceptance of, this is just happening, and we don't need to go down a story around why, or making any narratives about how we, deserve this or don't deserve this or whatever it is. While also holding hope and trust that things can improve without making self-development or healing like another job. That's another pitfall I think I see. That like when I left my legal career and was kind of focusing on getting better, recovering from long COVID, I was going about my healing the same intensity and ferocious focus that I would go about my corporate job, and that's just not how it works. I really had to learn about what it means to nurture yourself and not and to allow a softness and a spaciousness and to allow a slow healing process and not like a click of the fingers and things. We live in a pretty on-demand culture these days where I think
definitely
we want things to happen quickly. So I think that's kind of what self-love is for me. It's a being okay with what's here without going into any negative spiral or narrative, and also supporting myself to grow and heal and change in a way that's almost like nurturing, almost like the same way we'd nurture a loved one or a child or something, with that tenderness and without an urgency.
That's beautiful. And just for information and education for our listeners, is there any other kind of modalities or practices that you incorporated to get into that essence of nurturance or that softening other than what you've shared that you offer your students and clients?
Well, I mean, I've been a big fan of the work of Tara Brach for many years. So I used to listen to Tara Brach podcasts on my way to work. And I've read all her books, and she speaks a lot about, this radical compassion, radical acceptance. And I think listening to her talks and her meditations also have really helped me with that kind of softer approach. And then I guess doing inner child work, and actually cultivating a dialogue with my little self that is very caring and kind and compassionate. That's also been really important and pivotal as well.
Definitely. Yeah, and she's, just for resources, I believe she's definitely on YouTube, and I've seen her on the Insight Timer too, just as far as free resources to access her.
Yeah, and she has a free podcast with all of her talks.
Great.
And I think she's on Spotify and Apple, and
definitely.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. Well, what is the most authentic version of you, and how does that align with the impact you want to make?
The most authentic version of me, I think she's still evolving. I think I'm still deconditioning a lot. I don't think I've arrived necessarily, but definitely a lot more authentic than I used to be. And I think that just means, we spoke about following curiosity and intuition earlier. Really honoring that, like really just, even if it's so scary or it doesn't make any sense, starting to do that. And I always say to people, start with the small things. Like, we don't have to, if you're getting a massive intuitive download to like quit your job and move overseas or whatever, but that's terrifying. Start with, intuitive eating or, intuitive self-care practices or whatever. Like, start with the little small things that build the muscle of authenticity, of authentic choice, of, eating when you're hungry rather than eating because it's 1 o'clock and everyone says it's lunchtime, so you got to eat now. Like, those little things, that's how we cultivate a relationship of listening to our bodies. Going to the bathroom when you feel the urge instead of holding on because you don't want to be rude, Like, it sounds silly, but there are all these little ways that we're conditioned to not listen to ourselves and our bodies. So, yeah, I mean, it could be that small. It could be that just those little things, less, I think less people pleasing. I had to learn through the health and the fatigue that I was experiencing a few years ago, how to say no to social invitations and have some boundaries around my own rest and need for self-care. So that actually has been really great, and I haven't lost any friends as far as I know. Like, everyone understands. Life looks a little bit different, but it feels a lot better and a lot more authentic. So yeah, I mean, they're the kind of like more mundane ways of expressing authenticity. And then I think in the sort of bigger ways, it's about continuing to put work out into the world that is meaningful to me and that I truly believe in, and that has the potential to have, a great impact for others, and not, there's a lot of advice out there about how to even run a business or even how to be a spiritual person. We can get a lot of external influence and be, especially with social media and all of that stuff. You open social media, there's another 5 hacks to connect to your intuition, or another 5 steps to become more grounded, or whatever it is. And I would say, like, becoming a little bit less dependent on external stuff, external guidance, and finding ways to be more self-led. Like, that's another thing that I always say to people who come into my world, students and clients and things, that I'm not here to tell anybody what the right way is or to set out a path or anything like that. It's really about how can we clear away all the things you think, all the paths you think you need to follow, and all the 5-step things that you're putting pressure on yourself to do, and actually come back to what's right for you and your unique mind and body, because every single one of us has our own past, our own set of, values, set of conditioning, stuff that we're dealing with. So, authenticity, to me, there is no one size fits all for authenticity. Like, it's an oxymoron to say that there's one way of being authentic, because there's as many people as there are on this planet. That's how many expressions of authenticity there are.
Pretty much,
right? Yeah. So it's really about, to me, just shutting out some of the external noise and becoming more self-referential. And I don't mean that needs to be a completely isolated or totally individual venture, I think that also we need other people who are going through similar things, and community is really important in that as well. Like learning to be individual and authentic together. Because I think the spiritual path and this, authenticity path can be pretty lonely and isolating as well sometimes, to go inward, constantly going inward, constantly shutting out the world. And I think, it's really about a balance of inner exploration and also being surrounded by people who you feel safe around to be authentic, because that's how we cultivate belonging. And I think in this world that we have with social media and AI and all of the crazy stuff, belonging is a real missing piece. We're constantly connected but feeling more isolated and disconnected.
It's very interesting times.
Very, yeah. So I think, part of what authenticity means for me is also about cultivating the external circumstances and the external safety that allows for that authentic unfolding. It's not just on the individual.
Yeah, and I think being in community, and especially with women, I just was in Costa Rica on a retreat, and it was profound to bond with these 16 other women from around the world, and you don't know anything about each other, and you're leaving as sisters and family, and but I just think that is such to be seen in the ups and the downs and the twists and the turns of life, and just to be witnessed and supported no matter where you're at, whether you're feeling on top of the roller coaster or you're on the bottom. I'm definitely still moving through some things, and now to have these new women in my life to just see me in this like raw, real expression is profound, to have that support and just to feel not judged, and to feel that compassion and the understanding, and to be able to receive that. I think that's really where it's at. And I personally think like being in sacred circle with women is such a powerful thing on the planet, and a frequency and a coherence that I think is growing, and it just really enables us to show up just as we are, and not have to put on these masks or things that we've got it together. And it's tricky and it's vulnerable, but it has to kind of be like that for us to come into that level of authenticity and just that true expression.
Yeah, that's it. And I do think, the wellness world has a lot to answer for, and it's kind of the way that it can almost put it on the individual to do this protocol, and if you don't do it perfectly, it's on you. You're the one that has failed at this, and therefore, it just sort of like perpetuates this hyper individual neoliberal paradigm, when really, we're wired for co-regulation. Like, yes, self-regulating is important, and to be able to, have tools and things to be able to self-soothe and cope and with life and all of that. But it puts an awful lot of pressure on the individual to feel like that's the only way, and if I don't do this for myself, then I've not succeeded, or, I'm not good enough to be in the wellness space, or whatever it is, where we were never really meant to be living in this level of disconnection from other beings. We have a nervous system that mirrors the nervous systems of the people around us, and can borrow safety from others through co-regulation. And without that, it's an awful lot of extra responsibility, extra baggage, extra things on the to-do list. And so I agree with you, finding community, finding that ability to, all those places where you can feel seen and witnessed, and also see, that you're not the only one who is having a hard time. Like, it's easy to believe everyone's highlight reels and that everyone's got it together, and everyone's thriving and you're the only one who gets like low or anxious or anything like that.
Right.
But I think, yeah, especially when women come together and share in that vulnerable, real way, just to feel not alone in it is super powerful.
And I think having when we are in that shadow or in the dark and being in an authentic community or a loving community, then they can reflect your light back to you and just help you stay that course. I think that's really helpful to just get those reflections, especially when you go to a retreat and you don't know these people. And my experience that I just had, because I got to teach yoga at a retreat, and it was just to get the feedback and the reflection, to be out of my community. These women don't know anything about me, and it was just really like a balm for my soul to just be able to receive that and to be seen in that way. It was really, really helpful and healing for me.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah,
we need more of that.
Definitely. Yes, let's collaborate in the future. So what is one message or insight you believe the world needs to hear right now?
I think that the world needs to hear that they have more power, more wisdom within them than they're probably being led to believe they do. And that, that it's not, you don't need to get the next hack or the next, quick fix or whatever. It's about starting to find a pathway in to what's real for you. And for me, that starts with the body, I think getting out of analysis, analytical thinking, problem solving, the busy mind, and the body being the portal to that inner navigation system or that inner guidance, that truer part of ourselves. And then, it's through the body that we can then start to, like I did when I was on retreat, start to experience the more energetic aspects of the self, and keep following that, and then sit with our emotional self and what are our emotions trying to tell us, what is the wisdom in the emotions that we're having, instead of trying to fix them or say like stop being so angry or sad or whatever it is. Like, what are they trying to say? What's the message here? The body doesn't create things for no reason, just for fun. I think that there's great wisdom in all of that. And the same goes for nervous system dysregulation. Like, I started doing this little series for people in my world called Sacred States. Like, what's the sacred message or the intention behind, say, a fight response showing up right now, like, or you're stuck in freeze. What's the wisdom here? Why do we don't need to rush out of freeze. We can actually inquire and get curious about it and learn a bit about why we're there. And that all starts with tuning out of the internet and to the inner world, and finding that all of that stuff is already within us. I feel like that's really, if I had to boil down my work to one kind of core intention, I would say that's it. That's probably what is the antidote to modern day, whatever we call this society that we're in. Yeah.
That emotional intelligence, it's going to lead you somewhere, and it's going to take you to new paths and avenues to explore.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great segue into my final question. And what does my body, my power mean to you?
Oh, my body, my power. I mean, it is, what does that mean to me? It just means everything. It's really the doorway. I sometimes like to, I sometimes think that we have been told to believe that our power is outside of us, as I've basically been saying this whole time, you know, that our power is in something external. And if we work hard enough, then we'll get that power. We'll get to a position of power. But the body is where we are having all of life's experiences, the good, the bad, the happy, you know, everything, the spiritual, the mundane. It's all happening here in the body. And that is also where we will access our sovereignty, our sense of safety. You know, safety is not an external thing either. It's an internal state. And it's through that we can feel more empowered, more powerful, more confident to live authentically or in alignment with what it is that we really want. So yeah, I'd say that's it, you know, finding ways to cultivate safety within and finding ways to connect with the wisdom within.
Beautiful.
Is how we that's where power is. That's what power is, you know. It's not power over getting more influence in the world, but it's like a real uprising of our own power. And I think women are really primed for that. You know, there's a lot of power within women that we can gather from this kind of more embodied journey rather than an external journey.
Yes, indeed. And so it is.
Yes.
Well, how do folks find you online?
So the best way is probably my Instagram, @SallyPriestley is my handle.
Okay.
I'm working on a new website. I do have little sort of scattered websites and landing pages for things all over the place. But my Instagram, I post on there semi-regularly, and I have a pretty beautiful mailing list as well. You know, I have always resonated more with writing emails. I think I share a little bit more of myself more authentically through email. And I have a really nice little community of people who are on my mailing list. I try to send out a couple of emails a month. Just sharing, you know, what's going on for me, what's working for me, what's not working for me, and also what I'm offering. You know, if people want to jump in on something that I'm offering, then that's
wonderful.
How they can find out about it. Yeah.
Okay. And do you have any events or things coming up that you want to share about?
Yes. So here in Australia, we're having the autumn equinox at the end of March. But you know, if wherever you are, it'll be the spring equinox. So I'm doing an embodied equinox ritual series, starting with some ritual on the new moon, which is the Thursday before the equinox, for intention setting and grounding and just getting really clear. And then there'll be a mix of pre-recorded and live rituals and a little community chat as well, because as we said, I think community is just so important for all of this. And yeah, so the opportunity there to connect with everything I teach. You know, these are embodiment rituals that are trauma informed and nervous system informed. Everything kind of has that lens over it, but then it's also got the kind of sacredness that I think is missing in our modern life as well. So there'll be those, and then the membership is hopefully going to be available from April.
Awesome.
So
good for you.
Yeah,
that's exciting.
Yeah, it's super.
Do you have
exciting.
any final words or one last thing you want to share?
I just think, you know, anyone who's listening to this is already on the right track. You know, if you're listening to this podcast and there's a curiosity there about connecting with your body, connecting with your power, like that's the way. That's how we heal and grow, and the antidote for, you know, unwinding all of the toxic stuff that comes out of being, or the challenges of modern life, let's put it that way.
Yeah,
so
sure. Great. Well, thank you, Sally. It was wonderful to have this amazing conversation with you. I appreciate your time, and thank you to our listeners for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Community Power Rocks.
Thank you for joining me on this journey of empowerment and connection on the My Body, My Power podcast. If you loved today's episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who inspires you. Together, we're creating a ripple effect of confidence, courage, and light. Until next time, Goddess, keep shining your power.